It is Friday night and I am exhausted. But I have been thinking so much about teaching and my experience last year that I wanted to make a video that was solely, is my camera straight? Solely about comparing Montessori and private school and my thoughts on it. So just to give you some background, I went to a Montessori school from the age of 3 all the way up until 6th grade. And then I started a private college prep school from 7th grade to 12th. And then I taught at a Montessori school for 1 year. And then this is my first year teaching in a public school. So I sort of have a lot of experience to compare. So first thing is first, being a Montessori student versus a teacher is very, very different. I personally loved being a Montessori student because I was very free thinking. I was pretty self-motivated and I was very hands-on. I'm still a hands-on learner and Montessori is perfect for that. As a teacher, I think I would have fallen in love with Montessori a little bit more, probably if I were certified, because I feel like with Montessori, you sort of need to know why things are happening, because if you don't know the why, sometimes it's just wait, what? This doesn't make sense. And so I wasn't certified and I was going to give it 3 years, a 3-year cycle to determine if I wanted to be certified. And I just knew it wasn't for me. So the parts that I loved about, so first, I adore the school that I went to, oh my goodness, best teachers ever when I went there, best experience of my life. I had some of my favorite teachers at that school. I have just never felt so loved and supported in a school. And so I wanted to give that to my students last year. Naturally, being at a private school, there's so much just more freedom. There's less red tape. This year, I feel so much of my job at a public school sometimes is paperwork and turning in things. It's you feel like a literal student. And there's just a lot of red tape. Oh, if you get any donations, turn it into the office, blah, blah, blah. Well, I guess that's normal. But I don't know, last year we had a much higher budget for our class than what I did this year. We had 1,500, but that was for 20 something students. It had 3 grades in it. And it was 2 teachers. And then this year, I don't even know what my budget is. I know that the teacher before me had leftover funds, so I get that money. But anyway, it's you could just go and buy what you need for your class, turn in your receipt, boom, refund. This year, it's you have to get what you want approved, and then someone has to order it for you. You have to pay for the copies that you make. We don't have a color printer in our school. It's just so much red tape. Sometimes it literally drives you insane. It drives you insane. So the freedom of a private school, I definitely miss that. Things were so much more simple. The approval process was just so much shorter. Academically, and this is my opinion, I do not think that Montessori is for every single student. It is not. Your student or child has to have intrinsic motivation, especially in the elementary level, because there's no consequences in Montessori schools. That does not align with Maria Montessori's thought. So okay, you decide to not do work today. Okay, you can still go to recess. We can't really sit you out. We can't take away something. There's nothing. And when a student is smart and they realize there's no consequences, it's over, because they know how to finesse the system. They know I can get away without doing work. It's a problem. Now, very rarely in Montessori, at least at the school I was at, did I have students that really didn't want to work. I had students that were talkative, really talkative, that prevented them to work, because when you're in a Montessori classroom, you can choose your seating, you're wandering around, you choose and get up to go get lessons. There's a lot of autonomy, which also means students have to have they have to not have self-control, but sort of self-control enough to be I know I'm allowed to go and get water whenever I want. I know I can go talk to my friends whenever I want, but I need to choose to get to work. And that's really hard for a first grader, second grader, third grader. I had weekly reflections as a student at Montessori. Every single week, my weekly reflection said, and she's talking too much. Like, she's not able to get her work done because she's talking too much. So you just have to, like, I don't know. I feel like you really have to check in with your students to just ask them, like, okay, how many lessons did you complete today? Okay, like, what could you do better? Like, I had a child that went to Montessori. I would be asking them, like, those type of questions. Like, okay, did you go on to choose your next lesson? Like, okay, it seems like yesterday you only got one done. What did we notice? Just because you really have to be on top of it. And then that's the difference of public school. This is where I love public school. I can run my classroom however I want to. So I like a lot of positive reinforcement. I do have one small negative reinforcement, but I'm okay with it personally. Okay, so one of our rewards is each one of my students has a punch card and has their name on it, and then it has a reward, and they get to choose a reward. Rewards from my classroom so far, they're getting a little bit more creative. Rewards so far have been like extra recess. Some have done popcorn. I just have an excessive amount of popcorn. Mainly extra recess, extra computer time. Like I have Poppets. Someone today put Takis. I always eat Takis, so Takis. Someone put, like, they wanted to be the teacher for the day. I was like, we don't have time for that. Like, you can be a teacher's assistant. And they've been a lot more creative with their rewards, but it's very individualized. So it's like, I see that you specifically are working really hard right now, or you've met a personal goal. I'm going to give you a punch. A lot of times after a fluency assessment, as their number increases, I'll give them a punch. Like, it's just for a variety of different things. If the entire class is crazy, but one student, they're really choosing and focusing and doing the right thing. Oh, thank you so much, so-and-so, for doing the right thing. Get a punch. And then we have a marble jar. Marbles, we really worked for a class pet, and after that, we've been a little slow with the marble jar. But when I say it had my class in a chokehold, like, literally just the sound of marbles dropping literally had them freeze, and then they would realize marbles went in. They, like, were, like, smiling and would, like, go back to work. Or it's rowdy. I didn't have to say anything. I just took marbles out, which I don't really know if that's negative reinforcement, because I'm not really taking something away from the students, but I'm like, we're now much further away from a reward. So as a class, we choose what the reward like might be. So, and I feel like I have another way of rewarding them, or positive reinforcement, but I forget what it is. Anyway, that is what I love about public school as a teacher, is like, you can control your classroom, you can control like the consequences. It's just, you just have so much more control. And honestly, last year, except for a few students, my students were so just like well behaved. Most students that are in Montessori environments have been in the environments for a long time. It's like they're conditioned to know what to do. So I didn't really need the control that I have this year. My kids are amazing because my expectations are incredibly clear. We stick to our routines, but they can cut up. Like, my kids can definitely go there. All right, academically, I love the resources of Montessori learning. Like, oh my goodness. If I could just... Also, quick side note, Montessori materials are incredibly expensive. Like, there's a lot of different vendors for Montessori lessons, and it just depends on the quality. If you get like a high quality like vendor or lesson, it's so expensive. So as a public school teacher, like, I could definitely buy Montessori materials like online on Amazon, I guess, and that could be taken from my budget. But just the way that you teach, and I'm mainly speaking of math, that's what I'm thinking of. Math, Montessori being hands-on is amazing. It is so helpful. Like, I wish I had the golden beads lessons. Like, oh my gosh, I wish, because I could easily turn it into, like, when I do I don't do small group right now, I'm going to be honest. I pull my student that has an IEP, and I pull my students that I've referred to PST, and I work with them. Judge me if you want. I literally, like, our class functions so well, and whole group goes so well, and then when they're doing something, I don't know how to describe it. Anyway, I'm thinking about, I want, my goal, and I'm being very transparent, is to do small group next semester, but it's incredibly hard in your first year to try to implement something new. And like the other thing that I think I'm most intimidated by with small group is the organization. I'm like, how in the world am I supposed to get the materials and organize this? I don't like new things in my class. That's a problem. Anyway, Montessori materials for math are amazing and very hands-on and so helpful. Language, and I could probably do without language. Now, the way a lot of the parts of speech, I have taught it in a Montessori way, and I've used like the nouns booklet that we used last year. I print that off for my kids, like, you know. So, yeah, LOL, that's funny. But the materials, love the Montessori materials. I guess the structure of a Montessori class, like a big part of the structure is co-teaching. And I feel like most teachers naturally are controlling people. I mean, especially elementary teachers. You have a very controlling job. You're controlling when kids go to the bathroom. You're controlling their grades. You're controlling literally everything. And so when you are a controlling person, it can be really hard to share that responsibility with someone else. And something I've just like always thought about when it comes to co-teaching is just like doing like assessments, I guess. And like I say that like personality assessments and compatibility, I say that would be good, but I imagine it would be incredibly hard to do an interview, find someone that you like for a position, and then find out that the two people that you want to put together don't mesh well. Because then it's like, oh, we don't hire you, or we don't keep the person from before. Like, I see how it can be really weird, but it's like, it's really hard. At least it was challenging for me to just be thrown into like co-teaching, because it's just like, it's challenging. It's very challenging to work that closely with someone over a classroom, and it's like you sort of have to have natural chemistry, and if you don't, like, it can be very challenging. And just working with someone that closely, anyone like it can be my best friend, anyone that for that long every single day, like an inch away from you, is challenging. And I always just wanted to have like a classroom where I fully made the decisions. And like also something I struggled with was like I had a hard time putting my personality into teaching last year because I wasn't certified. Most of the times I was reading the not sequences, I forget what it's called, the Montessori books that teach you how to teach the lessons. I forget what they're called, but it's like a script, and it's incredibly helpful, but it's just hard to teach things in your own way. Like this year in my public school class, I'm able to come up with games. I'm able to print whatever I want to print. If like my school always says like standards first, curriculum second. And I feel like the curriculum at Montessori is Montessori. Like you have to stick to it. There is no venturing off. And like not always do your students need the curriculum that's provided. You know what I mean? As long as you're teaching the standard, that's what's most important. And so I just feel like I couldn't be myself. And then yeah, like it was very challenging. Like my relationship I have with my students now is so strong because I feel like I'm just fully myself. Like if I want to goof off, like I can goof off. If I want to go out and just buy something huge for my students, like I don't have to have a second opinion, which is honestly really nice. Now the flip side is I would love to have help. Oh my gosh. Like I had a sub one day come in. I did not know I had a meeting. I was supposed to be out the room. She came in to help and she was like, yeah, I was just like, I have your name on my list. Like, I'm here to help. And I was like, girl, I was like, thank you. I was like, you can go work with so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. I'm going to work with these three. Like, I was so excited. Come to find out, I was supposed to be in a meeting. That's why she was there. But, like, having an aide would just be so nice because, and this sounds so controlling, but, like, there would be a set hierarchy of, like, you are the teacher's aide. So, like, I need you to go do X, Y, and Z today. Instead of not having a set hierarchy of, like, oh, we're on the same level, but, like, this is your priority academically. This is mine. This is how you do things. This is how I want to do things. Like, it can just be challenging. But also, like, if you mesh really well with your co-teacher, that's, like, amazing. And it's so helpful. And it's also just nice, though, to have an adult in the room at all times. Like, it's like you can breathe sometimes. And also, like, last year, I didn't feel like I had to come to work like sick. Like I felt like I could take care of myself. Not that I necessarily I have had to come to work. I haven't had to come to work sick this year, but it's like you feel bad. You don't have that many sick days. Like you have to get a sub. It's not, I would never really want to call it the day of because most likely I'm not going to have a sub. I won't have sub plans like readily available. My kids would be thrown off. And last year it's like, you're sick? Okay, go take care of yourself because your co-teacher is literally at school. Like that was so helpful because I felt like I could actually take care of myself. This year, don't feel like I can take care of myself. Like I'm just like in there by myself. Like sometimes I feel like I am suffocating. Last week I felt like I was drowning. I was like, oh my gosh. But everyone says October is hard. Because you're like pushing. August is like procedures. Like you're getting them on routine. September is like, oh, we got to stay on our pacing guide. Like, da da da. October, you're burnt out. I am burnt out. Sometimes I have nothing to give. I'm literally pulling from reserves. But yeah, anyway, those are just some of the things that I've come up with. If y'all have any questions, you can always ask me in the comments. I love talking about Montessori and I love talking about public school because they're just so different. And if they could be blended, oh my gosh. If they could be blended, it would be amazing because I know for a fact my students would benefit just so much, like so much from a Montessori environment. But like I definitely loved it as a student, like loved it. And I think once I have kids, hopefully we're zoned for like a good neighborhood, I would probably just send them to a public school if I really think they're like free thinking and motivated and hands-on. Montessori. But also like if I'm zoned for a good public school, FREE, okay? I'm like, oh my. Because here's the other thing, is like education is education no matter where you go. Every single school you're going to run into teachers that don't need to be at that school, teachers that are lazy, teachers that need to retire, teachers that don't want to be teachers, teachers that want to be at home, no matter if you're paying or you're not paying. So it's like you could still go to a private school and still have your child end up with a teacher that doesn't give them the type of educational experience that they need. So I'm like, hey, might as well. But yeah, anyway, that's my experience so far. I want to sort of vlog more about like my educational like experiences. My throat is so dry. My throat is so dry. Oh my goodness. I feel like I'm gonna choke. But yeah, anyway, that's just my Montessori versus public school. And there's so much more to dive into. But like I said, like I definitely am a lot happier this year.